Okay, so I'll just mention ahead of time if you want an index of what we're doing here of this video and the previous 2 or 3 years. If you look in the description down below on YouTube, there's a link there that'll take you out to the indexes that I've created. So the other thing, let's see, last couple of weeks, I was saying I got my new wheel encoders put on this vehicle right here, and I got a microcontroller like like this, and that's hooked up to the encoders, and I was able to get it to the point where it drive it around by remote control, and I could record the numbers, and then I pulled that into Excel and displayed it. Let's see, screen two. I don't have here. Uh-huh. Okay, so assuming you can see that, let's see. Can I do something at the top here to show me?
I see
Nah.
Slack.
Yeah, okay, so anyway, this is on Slack. And if you want the link to Slack, that's in the description also. So here's my thing that I was doing. And I said last week I did this, but I hadn't thought to upload it ahead of time, so I couldn't show any pictures. So on the left is the actual code that the vehicle produced as it was driving around. And that was just whatever seed numbers or scale numbers that I'd started with. I put those in and drove it around. And I wasn't trying to do anything precise. I just wanted to verify that yes, the encoders were working, and yes, I could get some data back out of it. So that's what the one on the left is. That's directly what the microcontroller produced and output. So that's what it spit out over the USB port. So on the right, I've gone through and recreated, because up here at the top, there's an L and M field. I think that's the left encoder and the right encoder. That's the big 32-bit integer number that I've created. And then you have to take that and you have to convert that into distances. And then you have to say for odometry, you have to, if this was a live image, I could show you what it was doing here. But basically this lets me recreate all of the odometry plot from the original 2 encoder values. And it updates the encoder like 10 times a second. So you can go through and there's several columns out here that are generating the they're regenerating the essentially the XY of where you're at, and then we plot it. So the one on the left said plot column, I think B and C. That's your X and Y offset from where you started. So down here it starts at 0. As you drive along, it shows you your current position as the odometry generates your position. And when I recreated it over here, again, we're starting at 0, and you can see the thing maybe a little more square, and there's numbers you can adjust, and you can open up the spiral or close down the spiral, and you make these lines on the sides, sometimes straighter, sometimes not. It just all depends. But anyway, since I mentioned this last week and said, oh, I didn't think to upload it, I'm just saying here's a picture of it, and I should go through and explain all the formulas on Excel to recreate this and compare that to the C code that generated the stuff on the left here. But I didn't do any of that this week, so I can't go through and show you that. I just simply put the picture out on Slack, and this lets me put it onto the video just for future reference here. Everything on Slack disappears after what 90 days or something. So this will go on the YouTube video and stay there forever, or until YouTube kicks me off for not playing the game. So that's what I did with that stuff. So let's see, how do I say? I should say stop sharing. So my other story is I was going to go take this vehicle out and drive around the block, and this time I wanted to fire up, put a computer on and fire up ROS and get all the sensors, collect data from all the sensors. I got the 2 GPS receivers. There's an antenna on the front here, which is mainly there to tell me my heading, and then one on the back to tell me my XY location in the world. And it's got wheel encoders on the back, and it's got the steering. I'm reading the steering position off that, and there's various other things that there's two IMUs up on the front, which that's probably not what's there right now, but they're bolted on up there. So it reads all that stuff and publishes that out as ROS topics. So if you start up a ROS bag record, you can just say take everything that's going by and write it to a file, and then you come back later and analyze that. So I was getting ready to do that, and I looked at the laptop that I had, which is that's the one that I used for my robot, and I was going to update some code, and I realized there's no code on that machine, and I realized, oh, I swapped out the hard drive on this. So the old hard drive is plugged in as an external drive right now. And for some reason on that particular computer, if I try to boot from an external drive, it simply refuses to do that. And after, weeks of digging, somebody said, oh, you have to reload your grub bootloader because it's confused or something. And I haven't been able to figure out how to reload that. So anyway, I'm at the position where the laptop as it sits, um, all the code that I need is on the external drive. I can't boot from that drive. If I could boot from that, that would just boot up the old version of Linux and the old version of ROS and all my code to make this stuff work. I'd have to find somewhere to tape that laptop or tape that hard drive onto the robot somewhere, but that, a little quick electrical tape will take care of that. So anyway, I decided rather than try to go to all that trouble, I could just copy the code from the external drive onto my internal drive, and then I'm gonna have to, rebuild it. So I deleted my devil directory and my build directory and said cat can make. And much to my surprise, it went all the way through and nothing was complaining about errors. I think I had some warnings about eigenvectors, something that always come up, and I don't know if those are going to be a problem or not. So anyway, the build worked, and then I said fire up the launch file, and then all my Python programs started complaining because it's now going from Python 2 to Python 3. So I had to go through them all and change the header to say Python 3. So those quit complaining. And then there's various errors that kept popping up that, I have to go track them down one at a time. I got to the point where it looks like I beat down all the errors to the point where it's now complaining because it says, oh, I can't find the GPS USB port. I can't find the status strip LED port and the USB port. And that's because it's not plugged in anything. I was just sitting there in my living room. So I now have to go drag the computer out and plug it into the actual machine and fire it up and see what's going to run there. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. That kind of I realize it's like sometime last night is when I thought, okay, I'll get the stuff ready to go and I can take it out and drive around. And that's when I found out, oh, I screwed up. I don't have what I need here. So that's why I was going down that path. Another option would be to just open the computer, swap the hard drives back out, go drive around and swap them back again. But I decided I didn't really want to do that either because as soon as I do those, oh no, that I just want to tweak one thing and do that again. So I don't want to keep moving that back and forth. And the other option I came up with at one point I had in my plastic boxes, it would be this is my electronics box that has my main microcontroller board and it's got the power driver for the motor for the back end here. And I used to have two of those in there because at one point I was going to put a linear actuator on the steering. So I had two boards in there. When I decided not to, I took the board out and I had a Raspberry Pi bolted in that spot. So I've got holes there. If I just take a Raspberry Pi and bolt it down inside that box, I could get a dedicated ROS computer. And if nothing else, it would just talk to all the sensors and be able to publish all the data. And if I want to do, anything elaborate, I could put another computer on and just, connect them together with Ethernet. So I can take a laptop, plug the Ethernet cable in and run, the real ROS code, the big ROS code on the laptop, or if I wanted to add a second Raspberry Pi or try to get everything to run on the same one. But so those are various options that I have. I'm going to agonize over that for several weeks now. And I'll just go ahead and try something. And now my current plan is I've got the old code on the newer hard drive and it seems to compile. So I got to go out and test it and see if the next thing is it's going to fail on that. And then if I get that to work, then I can drive it around and then I'll have the old odometry messages, the new odometry messages, and I'll have all the GPS and the IMU and all that stuff publishing at the same time. So that way I can, compare them all together and see what they all look like. So other than that, I guess since I didn't get around to that to the last minute and it didn't work out well, I don't have results for that. And I was going to document that Excel stuff that I was doing, but as far as I got, which is putting up that picture so you can see what the picture looked like, and just say it is possible to do that. Just taking the left encoder and the right encoder, and from that you rebuild the entire odometry string, and then since it rebuilds it every time you display it, you can go change a couple scale factors. You can change the way it scales it and looks on the screen. So the whole point of doing that was I wanted to come up with the correct number to put back into the main code. So the next time I drive it, it would be really close to what I want, but after I get it done, the Excel stuff, I can't seem to tweak it to look like I want it to. So that I might have other problems there they'll have to dig into. So that's kind of where I'm at right at the moment, and I guess that's all I have to complain about.
You use the term beat down those error messages. I thought that was apropos. Yeah, can you remember? I'm looking in my notes as we're talking. Can you remember what error you got? Because or one of those Igon. You said Igon because boy does that sound familiar.
It's something about eigenvector. It says warning, I can't find this, but something else. And I don't remember if you have to go load it. It's just, I don't, it scrolls through like, 500 messages as it compiles. And I didn't go back and look. Actually, I did save that. So it's in a file somewhere. I can go track that down and see what that says. Because I figured if it got through with no errors, it's probably close enough to try it. And there's probably warnings that the warning is, oh, if you don't fix this, it's not going to work. That's probably what the warning says. So that might be something else I have to fix before we're done. And I don't know which program it was. Just one of the random programs was doing that.
Because I had written down how to get, because I had to rebuild my machine as I mentioned earlier, and I started from scratch and then put your simulator. I call it your simulator on top of that base build, and somewhere in there I was running into issues like I think you described. But anyway, I looked in my notes quickly. I didn't see anything close to that, but yeah, that's a pain in the ass moving machines.
And then another thing I noticed was, I'd go back and compile or go back and try to run the thing and had these Python programs popping up saying, oh, your tabs and your spaces are inconsistent. I think, well, they've been inconsistent for 4 years. Why are you waiting until now to tell me that? It's just weird that you go along and every once in a while say, oh, I'm going to complain about this now, even though it's been that way forever. And I don't understand. I don't understand a lot of this stuff, why it works the way it does and why it's all such a mess.
Well, it's worth noting the machine you have is Ubuntu 2004.
The current one is 2004 and the older one was 1604 with, I think, probably ROS Kinetic on it.
Yeah, I think we're on borrowed time now, but that's what I'm still using as well. So, anywho, on my side of the house, yeah, those are my instructions that I had written to use but that's not what I wanted to talk about. Let's see, where's Slack? Similar to Jeff, I posted in Slack a couple things. Oh, now come on, there you need to move. So there's a short video of the tractor making one of these Dubin's turnarounds as a bit of a reminder. I've got this Jupyter Notebook where I describe how to create the plan. And this, I know that's small, but this is the plan that I was trying to run yesterday. And I wanted to see the accuracy on these straights and also check to see that I had configured this plan correctly to avoid there's an obstacle here that I can't run over with spinning cutting blades, and I wanted to see how well I had done sort of measuring that. So what is in Slack is that's a little bit hard to see. So I've got it pulled up in Plot Juggler here. So this is Plot Juggler with the ROS bag file. And if you look at the data, certainly you get these squiggly lines and you're like, what's going on there? And I haven't spent a lot of time looking at this Plot Juggler, but when I checked GPS status, I lost RTK for, looks like, come here, how many seconds? From about 5:05. Yeah, close to 5:20. So 15 seconds. Man, oh man, I haven't seen an outage like that before. So I don't know if that's physical on my end or not, but that's what this is all about. This red dot is the look ahead, which represents the path, and it's slightly skewed, as you can tell, because of the axes that's going on here. So I don't have it as nice as what's represented over here in the very flat sort of view of that. But anyway, a little bit of progress. So issue number one, why did the GPS drop out for 5 seconds? Was that something on my side or 15 seconds or something else? You're not necessarily going to see it quickly, but um, the path coming down this way, and this is a sloped path, and I'm still sort of trying to get my IMU adjusted baselink update where I want it to be. So it looks fine here, but on the return path going back up this way, it doesn't look good. And by good, I mean right on the red line. So there's definitely, my hypothesis is my calculations for adjusting based on pitch and roll are not correct. That's another big thing. Another thing is if you look at this, well, don't do that. If I come in, again, the axes might be off a little bit, but this blue line and red line is, reasonably acceptable. When I go down here and look at these, it definitely looks like it can't turn, or it's not turning as fast as I had programmed it in. So that, what would it be? The right-hand turn. Can I say that? The right-hand turn is messed up. Let's see. This would have been, go down this way, come back up. No, that would have been a right-hand turn as well. So I don't know what's going on with that. This area down here, the slope is as bad as it gets on the particular terrain. And I have to look at the data, but my suspicion is it picks up speed and it's trying to make a turn as while speed is picking up. And so that looks whacked. Another thing to look at. And if you count these turnarounds, I think I counted 15 of those. If I go back here and count these turnarounds, there's actually 24 sort of stripes, if you will. And so it didn't complete. And I can understand what happened there. One hypothesis is I lost GPS signal here, and I might have a safety thing. Let's see if I run this out. Where am I at? As I'm going up here. No, it just stops. Well, because a couple of things happened. I got to the tractor when it was at that point being up here, and I could see that it was, I have a little indicator on my screen showing whether I've got RTK or not, and I didn't. And at the same time, the battery on the laptop was about to fail, and so I just stopped it at this point to get it back and make sure I saved my ROS bag. So it didn't end completely. The other thing to look at is speed. I had it set at 0.4. You can see that 0.4 meters a second. I was going to bump that up a little bit, but you can still see I don't have incredibly precise control over speed, although it's certainly averaging what I think I was trying to tell it. It ran pretty slow. Well, it ran it on average 0.4 meters a second. And this is an Excel spreadsheet with data coming off of my laptop where I was monitoring CPU utilization and temperature and also voltage. So my voltage at 2:45 started off at 11.5 volts and comes down. I mean, this is probably when I stopped it. And so at this point, I think it's saying I've got 5% left on the battery indicator, and CPU utilization drops from 31 to nothing because I had stopped all the ROS stuff at that time. So a little bit. So I've got another problem about getting power to the laptop to be able to sustain a longer run. So that was, how long did that last me? 424. Yeah, it didn't do too bad for an old machine. Anyway, those,
where are these numbers coming from? I see you've got various things like CPU and voltage and currents, and are you reading them up and putting out as a ROS topic? Is that how they ended up here, or is you just logging this to a file somehow?
I'm logging it to a CSV file from a Python script that's programmed in a cron job to kick off when I start up.
Okay.
So every time I boot, I get another CSV file. Whether I'm running it, whether I'm just piddling with my machine or whether I'm running a active program, it's logging this data. I was most interested in the CPU utilization to see if the machine was powerful enough, because I always knew I had I'm on a battery and the battery's only going to last so long. I just pulled this up to see what was going on yesterday.
Is that voltage? Is that the laptop voltage, or is that the tractor voltage?
It's the laptop voltage,
Okay.
because I don't power my laptop from it's only getting power from the battery pack on the laptop. I haven't written any sort of 12 volt to, what is it that these laptops run on? 19 maybe, or 17, I've forgotten. 16. I tested it one time, I think it's 16 or something like that. It's an odd, well, it's an unusual, it's a voltage that will require a buck converter to bump it up to get it to where it needs to be. What else? I think in my quick review, those are some of the things that I found. And this was probably, this GPS outage. Let's see how long that one lasted for. Yep, not moving those slider. Yeah, 3113-ish to, yeah, so that's a 7-second outage. And you may recall I have, when I lose GPS, I try to continue to produce my odom statement using wheel encoder data, but obviously that's not working worth a darn. So yeah, I sort of need to figure out why I lost it for whatever it was, 15 seconds over here and the 7 seconds over here. That's what's going on in my world.
Well, I think before we move on completely here, I'll go play your video that you just posted. That's on Slack. Again, since the stuff on Slack's going to disappear, and let's see how do I do that.
Oh yeah, you told me that, and then you mentioned it again on this call that it's only there 90 days. So I still have it. You can either download it or I can send it to you for posterity's sake.
Well, I thought we'd go ahead and just play it here, and I figure if I play it and I'm recording, it might get recorded better, as whereas if you played it and had to go through the whole network and then I recorded, so this will be kind of a test to see what it does.
And you can start maybe with sound, but then you can turn the sound off because it's just, an engine running.
Well, I've got the sound turned on. I don't know how to adjust it afterwards, so we'll just let the whole thing play and go from there. So here we go. That's not going to do anything.
It's buffering. I think once that blue line gets to the end, it'll get going.
Huh.
And really all you're going to see is a minute's worth of video, seeing it moving at around a half a meter a second and doing a Dubin's turn where it's first going to turn to the right and then turn to the left and get lined back up on the line. Might be able to notice in the grass as it's coming back around the dimple or divots or whatever, the indentations in the grass showing where the stripes are.
What I noticed was when you made your turn to go around, I was watching your front wheels, and I noticed they fairly abruptly turned one way, and you went around. They fairly abruptly turned back, and it looks like you're talking about it's not what how can I say? It isn't to be following the path like you wanted it to or something. So it almost looked like maybe your steering either isn't. You're trying to overdrive the steering or something. So, but I see it's not going to play, so I don't know what's going on here. What's this do? There we go. Yeah, it's not moving. So anyway, that apparently I'm not going to be able to play that. So
We
just
can try
modern.
one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's try one more thing. Back to sharing. Share.
And it could be if you play it, that it'll show up too. So I don't know.
Just checking. Can you see that?
Yes, I can. Well, watch your steering now as this drives around. All of a sudden, it'll turn real hard left. It comes swinging around, then all of a sudden it'll turn real hard right. I don't know if that's it's doing what you want it to there or not, but that's something I noticed. I thought you could watch for that and see if it's following like it's supposed to.
I think it does that to get lined up on the end of the if I pull up, let's see. So it's got to go past this way and then turn left hard to get the base link to be close to but it does seem like it goes a little further than it necessarily would need to get back on that red line, which is represented by that blue line. Yeah, always something to. How do I get back to where I was? There we go. So the lines are, I'm pretty happy with the straightness of the lines, but the coverage map I think is still goofed up because of my adjustments I'm making. It's not. I think it would be very repeatable. I just don't think if you were going to cut grass with it, they're going to have spots in the grass that aren't cut because it's not going exactly 1 meter over each time. So I just wasn't cutting grass because he had cut grass a few days ago. I think I'll go out and again in a couple of days and actually cut grass and see how it's doing. Where am I at here? Stop sharing. I just turned off sound on my end because the sound of a running motor doesn't really add much to the conversation.
Yep.
That's what I've got.
I think that's all I got too.